Glow Getters, welcome back to another episode of Ladies Let's Glow Up podcast. I am Mai, and together with me is a host, Syasha.
Yes.
All right. So you already know that this podcast, we inspire each other to actually to bring the best version of yourself and to help you bring the best version of you. And as always, we love that you are here with us today, ready to take it to the next level.
Yes, that's right, Mai. And today we have a very special guest. And then this episode actually is teaching us something about you have to do it, you have to ask, otherwise you won't get anything. So this is the episode that we truly learn about something is really good, experience. And then we are bringing a legend to you.
All right. But before we jump in, we want to give a huge shout out to our amazing sponsor for today's conversation, Nur Arfa Batik. So they have been so generous who actually support this special occasion conversation. And we are not just talking about the sponsorship. They are actually provide us with the beautiful baju kurung batik that we are wearing today.
It's very lovely.
Yep. So just a quick brief on who is Nur Arfa. Nur Arfa is founded in 1980 by the husband and wife, Sheikh Wan Muhammad Nordin and Puan Nur Hijrah, right? So they are actually based in Kuala Terengganu. It was from traditional, elegant traditional wear to contemporary fashion. So they are actually leading as a Malaysia's name in premium handcrafted since then.
Yes, exactly. And as you know that Malaysia is very open with the batik as a culture and as identity, right? And of course, with the the craftsmanship, the creativity, it makes us Malaysians more proud of our batik. It's really nice to have Nur Arfa together with us on sponsoring this episode.
Yep. Now, you are probably wondering who is the legendary guest?
Yes.
Well, we are absolutely honored to have us with today with someone who has shaped Malaysia and also very well known to the world, Tun Dr Mahathir Mohamad.
Yes.
Our iconic former Prime Minister of Malaysia, known for his vision, his leadership, his legacy that has impacted generations.
Exactly. And then Tun Dr Mahathir is very open with the mindset, trying to set up all the Malaysians as such a very in a good way, and then to make us more productive and thrive as a Malaysian. And then I cannot say much more because he is very well known to everyone. So let's welcome Tun Mahathir.
Assalamualaikum, Tun. Thank you for having us today. It's actually beyond words to describe how excited we are to meet you today. How are you doing, Tun?
Okay, I'm okay. I'm still able to function.
You're still very active, Tun. You going to lots of events, I can see that. And then you've been actively going to events and meeting more people at the age of almost 100, if I'm not mistaken, right? Almost 100, yes. And Tun, I have a special story to tell because yesterday I was looking at the Instagram and I found that you are publishing a few books on next month, if I'm not mistaken. And then I found that there's one book is something talk about mindset that you are sharing to us, and this is the book that I got from the writer. And she exactly sent it to my home at 11 p.m. last night, just to get this. But I haven't read everything yet, but I will surely do for all the. I think there's 3 books, if I'm not mistaken. So it's such an inspiring book. Yes.
Yep. A lot more to dig from, Tun, definitely, because you are such an iconic, our former Prime Minister. I also had a book in my that I actually bought, which is a Doctor in the House.
The famous one. Yes.
Yep. So in one of the chapter in A Doctor in the House, there was one segment you mentioned about your late mother's has shaped some of your character. So we were wondering how's her guidance actually from and the presence of strong women around you shape your views on leadership, on your empowerment and responsibility growing up? Do you mind to share?
Well, in those days, women do not work except in the house. They look after the children. And nowadays, of course, many women are working, and the husband, the wife, the father also is working. So maybe not enough time is given to bringing up children. But in those days, my mother was always at home, and she would tell me what is right, what is wrong, what I did which was not acceptable, what was acceptable, and generally she implanted in me the values that I have. Simple things like don't take what belongs to others. That is one of the things she stresses to me, and there are many other things she told me between what is right, what is wrong. And as a Muslim, of course, what gains you married and what loses married because you have done things that is wrong. So this shaped, I think, my thinking.
And also your disciplines towards your work since you are young and then until now, your disciplines, and then how you pursue yourself doing more courage and be brave in front of public, right?
Yeah. When you are given a set of values at the time when you are small, it stays with you throughout your life.
Yes.
You always remember what you have been told as to how to behave, how not to do things that are forbidden and things like that. It influences my thinking all the time. Even when I grew old, and my mother has passed away a long time ago, but what she taught me stays with me.
And that is how you are being such a big leader right now, and in a global scale, right? And then Tun, I have questions about, you've been open to the Malaysians. You have been globally, well known to all the world. Even though we can go to any country, when we say your name, they know you. They know your leadership skills and everything. So throughout all your, your power on that, and then how do you, with all the admirations and all the sometimes criticism from others, how do you change? How do you go with it, with your styles? How do you improve it and then handle the situations all the way?
Yeah, well, by the time I hold office in government, I already had a lot of experience gained from a lot of reading, discussion, interaction with my friends and all that. And I had visited other countries. So I was able to gather a lot of what we now call data. And based on those data, I acted. I see no reason why Malaysia cannot be a developed country. As far as I am concerned, Malaysia is a rich country, but even if we are rich in resources, you must know how to exploit your wealth. If you don't, then the country will remain poor and you will remain poor. So having had so much experience and gained a lot of knowledge from reading, discussion and all that, I was able to formulate things that actually is nothing more than exploiting the assets that we have.
Yes.
And that is what I did during my time.
Oh, interesting. And also you're saying that we know that you read a lot. You're reading all the books. Is it since your young age?
Yes, I used to read novels. English novels, because in those days there were not many Malay books. So I was impressed by the heroes in those novels, and I thought I would like to be like those heroes, So very brave, willing to take risks, and always successful and all that. And I learned the kind of character that these heroes in the English novels have. And I thought that, well, I could have also. I could be like them also. Maybe become a hero of sorts. That was when I was reading these novels, of course. Later on in life, the reality of life is quite different. The potential is greater, but the ability to exploit the challenges is much less.
Yes, exactly. And you're a hero right now for us. Like you built Malaysia, you built KLCC. There's a lot of things we're proud of you. You've been leading the Malaysia for about 2 decades. You are our hero, exactly, right?
You're right. You're right. And Tun, talking about your, how to say, you have led Malaysia through different political eras, right? Often coming back with renewed purpose. Even in your book, right, you will mention about the, what we call this, your vision for Malaysia, the policies like Vision 2020, and also the Look East policy. And we wonder, throughout all these eras, right, what strategies or principles help you to stay relevant, resilient through each of all these phases?
Yeah, by the time I decided on the principles and the objectives of this country, I had already observed many other countries. And I noticed that some countries are doing quite well. They are overcoming all kinds of obstacles, but some countries somehow or other fail. They cannot seem to progress. So I thought that the easiest way to do things would be to copy the successful countries. That is where the idea came for us to say, for example, the Look East policy. Why Look East? Because in the East we find many countries which overcame a lot of obstacles. Japan, for example, lost the war, was totally destroyed, and yet recovered. And at the time I became a minister, Japan was already expected to be number one in the world. In fact, it was number 2 after America. So if Japan can overcome, I ask myself, why cannot Malaysia? There's not much difference between Japan and Malaysia. Until later on, of course, I found out that their value system and our value system are different. And it is actually the culture that influences the success or otherwise of a person, of a country, of a people. The culture. Culture here refers to the value system.
I see. Yeah, I also noticed that most of the time in your book you will mention that we should have what we call it, the attitude like the Japanese. The hardworking. The, how to say, yeah.
Like we have to follow, not to follow. Like we should take as culture in Japan as example, right? The way that they're reading, their culture, like how they work. Yes, true. Because and then one thing that we can say is don't be lazy. A simple word. Like if you do something, you take action, it helps. It will gain you success. You can thrive in your life, of course, or in your career. Right, and somehow this is what we are doing because we want to take another step, another challenge to grow ourselves personally and hopefully impactfully for others for our audience.
Right.
Yes. Yes, and the next step, because since we are talking about don't be lazy and then we want to be a better person, right? I know, because right now the young generations or the females or something like that, we sometimes forgot, sometimes we follow trends. We are maybe not reading too much and some young generation are really not into educations, and then to proceed themselves in the real world. So as for your advice, Tun, the mindset, the way that we do in daily life is impacted to our future, right? So what can you share to us about what kind of advice that you can share, or maybe from your experience, so maybe can inspire others?
Well, as I said, I read novels, English novels, and I noticed that the people who succeed, they succeed because they contribute something, they have done something. Then, of course, they are referred to as being successful. And there was some passage which says that you earn a living. You don't get anything for free. You have to do something to earn something. That is one of the things that I read in the novels. At the same time, my mother taught me that I must earn whatever she gives me. For example, I wanted to buy a pen. It wasn't very costly in those days, just about one ringgit. But she told me that if I want to buy a pen and I need money, I had to carry water for her rose plant, for her jasmine plant. I had to carry every day, and I earned 1 cent a day. So I had to work for the money. And later on, I find that anything I want, I have to work for it. So that becomes embedded in my idea of living, that I have to contribute something to get something. So that is what drives me to do things, because, for example, if I become a prime minister and get paid, why do I get paid? What is my contribution towards earning the money? So that is something that always influences my thinking.
Yes, I think this is right, Mike, because in life we always think about getting money, but how we want to get the money, and that's the impact for us, and it's actually contributes to yourself, or to, like you say, like you prime minister, to the country, right? It's not easy. It must have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience and readings, as you say. And when you say that your mom, sorry, when your mom teach you in some way, that she can give you 1 ringgit right away, exactly, but how she want you to feel, how hard is it to get the money, how to earn that money, so you can appreciate more. And then you're not like, even though it's 1 pen, it's actually you earn it because you work every day and you earn it. That is how your experience, right? Which is great. And then talking about mindset again, we know in mindset, if you want to do, you have to do it. If you put your mind on it, it is something that it helps you. Because let's say if I say I want A, and I will make it happen no matter what. But how does it, their mindset is actually can lead, like what I mean is the process of having a mindset that can be consistent for over the years.
Well, during the time when we were under British rule, the British looked down on the Malays, saying that the Malays are lazy, they are stupid and things like that. I felt hurt. I felt that people should not look down on us. So in order not to be looked down on us, we must show that we can do. And in life there will be challenges. For example, when I went to study medicine, I was not the best student. Many other students had far better results than me. I had to compete with them. How do I compete with them? They are so far ahead. I had to work hard. For example, I read my textbook not once, but many, many times, up to a point where when I'm asked a question in the exam, I could actually visualize the page of the book, the illustration, Because I read it many times, not memorizing, just reading many times. Somehow or other the brain seems to record this.
Yes.
So I was able to answer questions in the examinations, and I passed. I passed all my exams except one.
Is that what subject?
Yeah, I failed in obstetrics and gynecology because Professor Shears adopted the American way of dealing with the problem. So when the examiner was from England, Miss Gladys Dodds, she was very English, and she didn't appreciate American ways. So I gave the answer correctly as required by American approach to dealing with the problem, but Gladys Dodd felt that it was wrong, so I failed my exam. So I had to go another 6 months before I got through the exam, but I passed all the rest.
Yeah, surely you do. And when you say that you reading the textbook so many times, it is very uncommon for us. I mean, because for us, like me, past years, reading the textbook so many times, it's kind of boring. But you make it happen because you want to be successful, because you want to pass and you want to show that I can do it, right? Which is good. Yeah.
Apart from that, Tun, I was wondering, to be different from others, what are the character that we should have? I know that you mentioned about you got to be outspoken. First you got to have a knowledge. If you have a knowledge but you don't outspoken, then you won't go anywhere, right? So is there any specific character that we should outshine from ourselves?
Well, even in school I had to compete, and in order to win a competition like the annual examination, for example, I have to do things many times.
I see.
And I noticed that if I read something many times, somehow or other it sticks to my mind.
I see.
And I can bring it up during answering the question. So I noticed that anything that I do repeatedly, it improves. I did wood carving, for example. Initially it was horrible, but slowly as I do it over and over again, the result becomes better and better.
I see.
It still doesn't reach perfection, but this is something I noticed very early, that in order to overcome obstacles, I must try to meet this obstacle many times, different ways of overcoming the obstacle, and eventually you come up with a solution. So that influences me until I became minister.
I see.
Minister and Prime Minister. When I'm faced with problems, I use the same approach, that I should understand the problem, think about it, read about it, ask questions about it, and once I understand what the problem is, normally the idea of overcoming the problem comes to me.
I see.
And I was able to resolve most of the problem.
Yeah, I think it's actually you are actually implementing the doctor side, right? You have a problem, you have to identify the problem, analyze first, and then examine. Is that the steps that you're actually practicing, right?
In that sense, the training as a doctor is very useful, even in administration, because the doctor is always trying to solve problems. Somebody comes to see the doctor, explaining that he has a fever. But fever can be caused by lots of other things. So to know what causes the fever, you have to go back into the history, you have to do physical examination, you have to do special examination. That is what I do during my time as as a minister, as prime minister. But actually, when faced with, I discuss, I ask question, I try to learn as much as possible about the problem, and eventually having practically diagnosed what the problem is, then there are the answers.
I see.
Now, which answer should I have? That also I have to choose what is the best way of solving the problem. And I think the training as a doctor benefited me a lot.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I also love in the book you mentioned about you the generations nowadays need to learn from the history. You know, do not repeat the mistake from the history.
Yeah.
Then you got to improve.
Yeah.
That's how we learn, right?
True.
That is a quote from George Santayana, who says, "Those who forget the lessons of history are condemned to repeat their mistakes over and over again." So I take that to heart.
I see.
And I look back to what happened before and try to get as much data as possible, information as possible, before I can resolve any problem.
Shah,
So
you have
you give us a lot of ideas about from the daily life how you're doing it, and then implement how the process from the medical sections, and then because sometimes, right, by the time you grow up, you learn a lot of things and you implement the simple things to your daily life, and that is way that you can improve ourselves. It's amazing, Tun. And Tun, I just want to have you and advice also for the future generation, or even for us, because we as a female sometimes, or as a young generation, sometimes we are thinking about what we want, what is our impact that can be influenced to Malaysia in the future, right? Maybe you can share some advice or what we should change, or maybe implement or make it better for future.
This is where history is important. You must know where you come from,
Yes.
where you are now, and what is the potential for the future. If you look at things, there are trends. Always something happens. As time goes on, the trend becomes clear.
Yeah.
And when you look at the trend, you can sort of draw a graph, mentally draw a graph that is going to be like that. And the future, of course, should be a continuation of the trend. And the trend tells you whether good things are going to happen or bad things are going to happen. And of course, sometimes it doesn't follow. Something happens that changes the trend. For example, in a country, the leader changes. The leader changes, then the trend doesn't follow. For example, see China. China was, the communists under Mao Zedong conquered China, and the trend is no longer the same. It's not going like that. It's going like that. But then came Deng Xiaoping, and immediately the trend goes up again. So, looking at history tells us what the future is going to be like. Possibility, whether it is going to be down or up, and why. And of course, if the leader in a country is able to move the country, then the trend goes up. But if you have a leader who is not capable, incompetent, then the trend goes down. So a lot of these things are predictable, and you know what you need to do in order to ensure that the trend goes up. And it's very simple. Nothing magical about it. You recognize these are your assets. How do you exploit your assets so that the trend goes up? So you must know your history. For the young people, they must know that things are not always good, that in the past it was bad, and it's good now because of the work done in the past, and therefore you have to continue the work. If you don't, then the thing goes down.
I see. Great. Yeah.
It's really deeply, it's good to know that when you say history, look at the past history, let's say 20, 30 years ago, or before I start live, and let's say like my grandparents' era, can see that how the trends is going. It's just good advice, Tun. I never thought of that, to be honest. Because I know that yes, we shouldn't repeat any mistake from the past, and we need to learn. But somehow when you say that, when you're seeing the past, the history, and that goes the present, that is a predictable, right? This is good advice.
Yep. I personally, I take it, the key takeaway that I got from Tun today is, first, practice makes perfect.
Yes.
Yep. Learn from the past,
Yes.
whatever mistake you have done, and you shouldn't, or maybe you should be improved.
Yes.
And
And the way that your daily life also, like how you do, if you think you're not smart, keep on practicing, learning, reading, until you can get something.
Yep.
You achieve it, something.
There is no what we call this shortcut for success. There's no way, right?
You have to be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There are lots of things in the past that we don't notice, but it was there. For example, the split among the Malays happened a long time ago, because when they came to the peninsula, they set up many states. In other words, they didn't set up one country, they set up many states, and they don't care about what happened to other states. So when we lost 4 states but to Siam, the other states are comfortable. They say, oh, those are their problem, not our problem.
I see.
But those are Malay states, and therefore you are losing Malay land. But to them, that is different state, negeri lain.
Yep.
So that is their business. And now we are saying the same thing, accepting that we are not divided by state.
I see.
We are divided by party politics, political parties. And again, when you are divided, you become weak, and you will be overwhelmed by opponents. The opponents will oppress you.
Yep. All right. Yep. A lot of things that we have learned, Shah.
Yes.
And,
Even though it's a short time with you, Tun, we are very honored to have you. You're looking very dashing.
Yeah.
I would say, like, if my grandparents are still here, they might be proud of me seeing you in person, because I remember when I was small, my grandparents always bring me to the parade, like Merdeka parade, and then we we were very patriotic that time, and then I remember that I met you when I was kid. It was parade. It was like I just waving, but obviously you don't see me. But it was really nice, and I cannot think about, like, now I'm here and I'm with you. I mean, we are with you,
Yep.
and you are open to have a interview with us. Yes.
Yep. Thank you so much, Tun, for the wisdom and the advice, for your time. And
Yes.
before we close, we have the sponsor.
Yes, we do have sponsors, since No Arfa is sponsoring us the clothes, and then they have some little gifts for you and Tun Syasha Mai also.